Christmas dinner was supposed to be magical, the kind of evening that movies and glossy greeting cards always promised. Warmth, laughter, twinkling lights reflecting in glasses of red wine. I'd spent the drive over rehearsing in my mind how things might be different this year. Maybe, just maybe, the tension that always lingered between me and my family would finally dissolve in the glow of fairy lights and holiday spirit. The moment I walked through the door, I felt it, the shift in the air. The chatter at the table dulled, just slightly, like a record skipping. I caught my sister's eyes, then my uncle's. They both quickly looked away, their hands suddenly busy with cutlery or their napkins. My heart stuttered, but I told myself not to read too much into it. The house looked beautiful, I'll give my mother that. Candles flickered on every surface, the table was draped in red and gold, pine garlands twisted down the banister. She had created a picture-perfect holiday, one that could have been torn straight from the pages of a lifestyle magazine. But the beauty of it all was sharp, almost mocking, because underneath the sparkle, I could already sense the storm brewing. I tried to smile, to take a step forward, to greet everyone as though I belonged. Because wasn't that the point of Christmas? To belong? But before I could even slip off my coat, my mother's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You're not welcome here." That was it. No explanation, no build-up, just 4 words, cold and sharp enough to silence even the clinking of forks against plates. For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. My ears rang, and my vision blurred with the heat of sudden humiliation. I searched her face for some sign of irony, some hint that this was a cruel joke. But her eyes were hard, her lips pressed into a thin, unyielding line. The silence that followed was even worse. My aunt adjusted her glasses, pretending to study her plate. My cousin shifted in his chair, tapping nervously at his phone. Nobody looked at me. Nobody defended me. It was as though my mother's words had cast a spell that erased me from the room entirely. Inside, 1,000 words clawed at my throat, questions, accusations, desperate pleas. Why? What had I done this time? Why is it always me? But none of them made it past my lips. My pride, what little of it remained, wouldn't allow me to beg for scraps of kindness. So I stood there in the doorway, cheeks burning, hands trembling around the strap of my bag. For a few long seconds, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then, without saying a single word, I turned, picked up my bag, and walked out. The cold night air hit me like a slap. Snowflakes clung to my lashes as I crossed the driveway, my heart pounding in my ears. Behind me, the house glowed with warmth and laughter I could no longer touch. But as I pulled my coat tighter and slid into my car, one thought blazed in my chest, hotter than any fire inside that house. This wasn't the end. The engine groaned to life as I sat in my car, shivering from more than just the cold. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, but it wasn't from the December air seeping through the glass. It was rage, humiliation, and something sharper resolve. I sat there for a few moments, staring at the glowing windows of the house I'd just left. I could almost hear the muffled laughter inside, the clinking glasses, the chatter of forks scraping plates heavy with roasted turkey and mashed potatoes. My family's voices, blending together into a sound that was both familiar and foreign, like a language I no longer understood. I was on the outside. Again. Tears stung the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them back furiously. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. Not for them. Not anymore. Instead, I shifted the car into gear and pulled away from the house, the tires crunching over the icy driveway. Each second that the distance grew between me and that glowing house, a strange calm started to settle inside me. My mother thought she had silenced me by throwing me out, but she didn't know what I had been holding on to all these years. The drive was long and quiet, the kind where the only company you have is your own thoughts echoing inside your head. Every streetlight that flashed across my windshield reminded me of a memory I'd buried. A cutting remark at a birthday, a sneer during a graduation, a dismissive glance when I'd tried to share something important. My entire life with them had been a collection of moments where I was made to feel small, unwanted, invisible. But invisibility can be dangerous, because invisible people notice things. Invisible people remember. I pulled into my small apartment building, the contrast jarring. From the outside, it was nothing spectacular gray bricks, a flickering porch light, but stepping inside felt like walking into a sanctuary. Here, no one told me I didn't belong. Here, I wasn't too much. Or not enough. I dropped my bag onto the couch and sat down heavily, staring at the faint reflection of myself in the darkened window. My cheeks were still flushed from the cold, but it was my eyes that startled me. They weren't broken or defeated the way I expected. They were steady, calculating. My laptop sat on the table, waiting. The black screen reflected the dim light of my living room. I hadn't planned to do this tonight, but maybe fate had just handed me the final push I needed. I opened it, the familiar hum of the machine filling the silence. My fingers hovered over the keys for a long moment as my heart hammered in my chest. For years, I had kept things to myself, truths, secrets, photographs that told stories no one else wanted to believe. And maybe I had been too afraid to share them, too afraid of what would happen if I did. But after what happened tonight, I realized something. I had nothing left to lose. I exhaled slowly, placed my fingers on the keyboard, and whispered to myself, "It's time." And as the first words appeared on the screen, I felt the shift. A quiet rebellion had begun. The glow of my laptop screen lit up the dim apartment, casting shadows across the walls. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the cursor blinking on an empty page. My mind replayed my mother's words at the table. "You're not welcome." I clenched my jaw. If I wasn't welcome in their world, then maybe it was time to show them another version of the world, one they had been so desperate to keep hidden. I clicked open a folder I hadn't touched in years. For later, it was labeled. Innocuous enough, but inside were things I had collected carefully, almost obsessively, since I was a teenager. Screenshots, emails, scanned documents, photographs that had never seen the light of day. They thought I hadn't noticed, but I had. Every whispered argument that stopped when I walked into the room. Every envelope slipped into drawers. Every story that didn't quite add up. I remembered everything, and I had proof. The first image I opened made my throat tighten. It was a photo I'd taken years ago, blurry, but clear enough to show my father sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread in front of him. Bank statements, loan agreements. I had been 15 at the time, supposed to be asleep, but I'd seen the panic on his face, the way his hands shook, and I'd seen the names on the documents. Names I wasn't supposed to know. The second file was an email my sister, begging my mom to transfer money into her account before her husband found out. The subject line burned into my brain. "Please don't let this get out." And then there was the photograph, the one that had haunted me for years. I didn't even mean to take it at the time. It was just a random snap on an old phone at a family barbecue. But in the background, clear as day, was my mother, standing way too close to a man who wasn't my father. The kind of closeness that didn't need explanation. They thought these fragments didn't matter. They thought I was the invisible one, the quiet girl with no voice, no power. But invisible people? We see everything. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. My pulse throbbed in my ears, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was something sharper, steadier. I realized that I had been holding on to these things like someone clutching matches in the dark. But now, I was ready to strike one. The question wasn't if I would use them. The question was how. Do I send the photos to the family group chat? Do I upload them somewhere public? Do I just press publish on the blog draft I've been building for months? The power of the choice sat heavy in my hands. My mother's words echoed in my mind like a dare. "You're not welcome." Fine. If I wasn't welcome in their family, maybe it was time the world saw what kind of family they really were. I closed the folder carefully, but the images stayed burned behind my eyelids. Tomorrow would not be like today. Tomorrow, they would remember that I existed. And this time, they wouldn't be able to silence me. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, every tick of the clock reminding me of how heavy the folder on my laptop had become. It wasn't just files. It wasn't just proof. It was years of silence, years of being pushed aside, years of being treated like a ghost at the edge of my own family's story. And now, I had a choice. At dawn, I sat back at my desk, hands trembling as I opened a new document. My coffee sat untouched beside me, the steam curling into the air like smoke from a fire I hadn't yet lit. The title at the top of the page, "The Truth About My Family." The words poured out of me faster than I could type. I wrote about Christmas dinner, about the way my cousin laughed when I got up from the table, about my uncle's silence, about the exact moment my mother's eyes hardened and she said, "You're not welcome." But I didn't stop there. I wrote about the hidden debts, the desperate emails, the man in the photograph who wasn't my father. Every detail, every memory I'd locked away came flooding back. With each sentence, my heart raced faster. There was power in seeing the truth spill across the page, but also danger. Once it was out there, I could never take it back. Halfway through, I paused. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Was this revenge, or was it justice? Somewhere deep down, I knew the answer. It was both. I saved the draft and opened my phone. My thumb hovered over the group chat icon, the one place where every single member of my family would see. I imagined their faces, the unread messages piling up, the frantic calls. I almost tapped it. Almost. Instead, I pulled back. Not yet. If I sent it now, it would be impulsive, sloppy. They would call me bitter, accuse me of lying, maybe even try to bury me in silence again. No. This needed to be precise. Controlled. A storm they couldn't run from. I went back to my laptop and opened my blog account, the one no one in my family knew about. Anonymous, but followed by thousands of strangers who liked raw, unfiltered stories. It was the perfect stage. I pasted the draft in, reading it through once, then twice. Every line felt like a blade. Every paragraph carried the weight of years. At the bottom, I typed one final sentence. Families are supposed to love you, but mine only taught me how dangerous secrets can be. I didn't hit publish. Not yet. My finger hovered over the button, my breath caught in my throat. I closed the laptop instead. Timing mattered. They had taken Christmas from me, my place at the table, my sense of belonging. So maybe, just maybe, it was time I gave them a gift of my own. And when they unwrapped it, there would be no way back. The next morning, the house felt too quiet. My phone lay face down on the nightstand, and for once I didn't want to touch it. No scrolling, no messages, just silence. But silence can be dangerous. It lets your mind wander. It lets you remember. And I remembered every little humiliation, every birthday, forgotten. Every holiday where I was the one setting the table, but never invited to sit at it. Every whispered conversation that fell silent the moment I walked into the room. The words, "You're not welcome," echoed in my head like a curse. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I opened my laptop, pulled up the blog, and stared at the draft. My finger hovered over the publish button. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my chest. What if they call me a liar? What if no one believes me? What if this ruins everything, not for them? But for me? Then another thought came, sharper, colder. What if they finally see me? I clicked. The screen blinked, a spinning wheel, then published. It was done. For a moment, I just sat there in the silence of my little apartment. Nothing exploded. No phone calls, no sirens, no gasps from the world outside. Just me, breathing, shaking. But within an hour, the notifications started. At first, a trickle 2 comments, 5 shares, a handful of likes. Then the flood came. People weren't just reading, they were reacting. They were furious, sympathetic, curious. Strangers left comments like, "This is heartbreaking. How could your own family do this? Stay strong, you deserve better." My inbox filled with messages from people who had their own family secrets. People who had been silenced just like me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. By evening, the post had thousands of views. My hands trembled as I refreshed the page again and again, watching the numbers climb. Then the call came. It was my sister. Her name lit up the screen, flashing angrily, as though the phone itself was warning me. I didn't answer. Seconds later, another call. This time from my aunt. Then my cousin. Then my mother. I turned the phone over and let it buzz. The sound filled the room, a mechanical scream that I refused to acknowledge. Finally, a message appeared. Just one sentence from my mother. "What have you done?" I stared at the screen for a long time, my pulse racing. What had I done? I'd told the truth. And as I closed my eyes, a strange calm washed over me. They had taken Christmas dinner from me, taken my place at the table, taken every ounce of belonging I had left. But now I had taken something back. By the next morning, my phone was a war zone. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, text messages, some frantic, some furious. The family group chat, which had been silent for weeks before Christmas, was now exploding with notifications. At first, I didn't even want to look. I sat there in my small kitchen, clutching a mug of coffee like it was an anchor. The steam rose in lazy swirls, but my hands shook too hard to enjoy it. Finally, curiosity or maybe fear made me swipe. The first message I saw was from my cousin, always the loudest voice in any argument. "Take it down now. You've humiliated everyone. Do you even realize what you've done?" Another message popped up from my aunt. "This isn't how family handles things. You've crossed a line." And then my mother. Just one short sentence, the kind that could cut deeper than a paragraph. "You've betrayed us." I stared at those words until my vision blurred. Betrayed? For telling the truth? For finally refusing to be the quiet one, the invisible one, the one who swallowed every insult like it was normal? My chest tightened, but I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through the comments on my post. Thousands more had come overnight. People shared it, stitched their own stories into mine, wrote about how they had been excluded, dismissed, silenced by their own families. My pain had somehow given others permission to voice theirs. That gave me strength. The buzzing phone suddenly stopped. Silence. Relief. But it lasted only a minute before it rang again, this time. Not just a call, but a video call. It was my sister. I almost declined, but something inside me whispered, "Face it." I swiped. Her face filled the screen, red with anger, eyes blazing. "How could you?" she snapped before I could even say hello. "Do you realize people at work have seen this? Our neighbors? Do you know how Mom looks right now?" I took a slow breath. "How she looks? Do you mean embarrassed? Or do you mean how she's finally being seen for who she really is?" Her jaw dropped. For once, she had no instant comeback. "You think you've done something brave," she spat finally, "but you've only destroyed this family. People won't forgive you." Go. Her words stung, but I didn't let it show. "The family destroyed itself a long time ago," I said quietly. "All I did was stop hiding it." She hung up. The screen went black. I sat there, heart racing, the silence pressing in around me again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was strangely freeing. Because for the first time in years, I had spoken my truth out loud. And no matter how angry they were, no matter what came next, they couldn't put it back in the dark. They couldn't erase it. And deep down, I knew. They were just getting started. That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted my apartment walls in shadows, my phone buzzed again. This time, It wasn't my sister, or a cousin, or some distant relative trying to play peacemaker. It was her, my mother. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, her name glowing back at me. My stomach twisted. She rarely called me directly. She preferred to speak through others, like a queen issuing decrees through loyal messengers. The fact that she was calling meant only one thing. The situation had reached boiling point. My thumb hovered, then pressed accept. "Hello?" My voice came out tighter than I wanted. There was silence on the other end, heavy, suffocating, before she spoke. And when she did, her tone wasn't loud. It was cold, sharp, the kind of voice that didn't need to raise itself to cut you open. "You've embarrassed me." No. "Hello." No. "How are you?" Just a verdict. I swallowed hard. "I only told the truth." "Truth?" she hissed, and suddenly her voice cracked like a whip. "Do you think strangers on the internet care about your truth? They're laughing at us, at me, at this family. You've ruined Christmas. You've ruined everything." I flinched at the word ruined. It was the same one she had used when I was younger, whenever I spilled something, whenever I didn't live up to her impossible standards. "You've ruined the photo. You've ruined the moment. Always me, always ruining. But this time, it was different." "I didn't ruin anything," I said quietly, but firmly. "You did, with your words, with the way you treat me." Silence again. Then laughter, low, bitter. "You think anyone believes you? You've always been dramatic, always twisting things. And now the world sees it too. They'll see you for what you are, a liar craving attention." Her words were meant to sting, but I felt something else rise inside me. Anger, yes, but also clarity. "They already saw me," I said, "and they believed me. That's what scares you, isn't it? That people finally believe me." Her breath hitched. For a second, I thought I'd broken through. But then her fury returned tenfold. "If you don't delete that post," she said, her voice shaking with rage, "I will make sure you regret it. You won't be invited back here. Don't expect any inheritance. Don't expect this family to ever take you back." There it was. The threat. The leverage she'd always held over me. But something inside me shifted. I realized I didn't care anymore. I didn't want to be invited back. I didn't need scraps of love dangled like rewards, or the promise of money to keep me obedient. "I don't need any of that," I whispered. "What I needed was a mother. And you were never that." And before she could unleash her fury again, I ended the call. My hands shook, my heart thundered, but I felt something incredible. Freedom. Little did I know. That call was only the beginning of the storm to come. The morning after that call, my notifications lit up like fireworks. At first, I thought it was just more of the same sympathy from strangers online, maybe a few hate comments sprinkled in. But when I opened my messages, I realized it wasn't just strangers anymore. It was family friends, neighbors, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. "Is this true?" one message read. "Your mom said you exaggerated everything," another chimed in. And then, the one that hit hardest. "I always thought something was off when I saw the way she treated you. I'm glad you finally spoke up." I sat frozen at my kitchen table, coffee going cold in my hands. The story I had pressed, published on half out of pain, half out of desperation, had broken out of our private family bubble. It was public now, and people were taking sides. By noon, my sister was calling nonstop again. I ignored it. Then came the group chat messages, floods of angry texts, accusing me of humiliating the family, of being selfish, of airing dirty laundry. But woven between the anger were quieter voices. Cousins I hadn't seen in years wrote, "I know exactly what you mean. She treated me the same way when I stayed with her that summer." Another confessed, "I never felt welcome in her house either. It was like someone had cracked open a dam." For years, my mother had controlled the narrative, outwardly the perfect hostess, the doting matriarch, the woman who sacrificed everything for her family. But behind closed doors, she ruled with cold words and sharp silences. And now, people were seeing that side of her. That afternoon, I got the call I had been dreading. Not from her, no. She was far too proud to dial my number again. It was from my aunt. "Sweetheart," my aunt said, her voice tight, as if she were choosing every word carefully. "Do you realize what you've done? Your mother can't leave the house without someone asking about your post. At church yesterday," people whispered, "she's mortified." I closed my eyes, pressing my fingertips into my temples. "I only told the truth. If she's embarrassed, that's on her." There was a pause. Then my aunt lowered her voice. "I believe you. I always have. But you need to be careful. She won't let this go. You know how she is." And I did. My mother never lost. She never surrendered. She rewrote stories, bent reality, until somehow everyone believed her version. But this time, she wasn't just fighting me. She was fighting the truth, and the internet never forgets. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through hundreds of comments. Some hateful, yes, but most supportive. People shared their own stories, their own heartbreaks of being cast aside by the very people who were supposed to love them. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. But I also knew this was only the beginning, because if my mother felt her control slipping, she would come back twice as hard. And when she did, she'd aim straight for the one place she knew could still hurt me. It didn't take long for my mother to strike back. 2 days after my post had gone viral, I woke up to an email from my boss. The subject line made my stomach drop. "We need to talk." I sat at my desk, hands trembling as I opened the message. Inside was a link. A link to a new post, this one written by my mother. She had crafted her own story, long and elaborate, painting herself as a victim of a cruel, ungrateful daughter who was twisting childhood memories for attention. She didn't stop there. She accused me of lying about nearly everything, my upbringing, my struggles, even my job. And then, the part that made my vision blur with rage, she claimed I had serious mental health issues, and that nothing she says should be taken at face value. She wasn't just trying to discredit me. She was trying to destroy me. I slammed my laptop shut and paced the apartment, my chest tight. I could feel the walls closing in, every doubt I had about speaking out pressing down harder and harder. If my boss believed her? If people at work believed her? The phone rang. It was my sister. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You've gone too far this time." She spat before I could even say hello. "Mom's reputation is ruined because of you. Everyone's talking. You don't get it, do you? She gave you everything, and this is how you repay her?" I bit my lip so hard it nearly bled. She gave me everything? Do you even remember the nights she locked me out of the dining room? The Christmas she told me not to bother coming home because I ruined the mood? Do you remember when she called me a mistake? Silence. Just heavy, shaky breathing on the other end. Finally, my sister muttered, "You're twisting things. You always twist things." And then she hung up. I stood there, shaking, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. Twisting things. That was my mother's favorite accusation, her way of turning truth into lies, and lies into her own spotless version of reality. But I had something she couldn't twist, something she couldn't erase, no matter how hard she tried. The photo. I had kept it hidden for years, tucked away in a folder on an old hard drive. It was proof. Proof of what had really happened one Christmas long ago. A night no one in my family ever spoke about again. A night that explained why she despised me so much. I opened the folder and stared at the image glowing on my screen. My chest ached as memories came rushing back, but I knew what I had to do. She thought she could smear me, silence me, turn the world against me. But tonight, I would show everyone the truth. And when I did, the room, the entire family, would go silent. The house was warm that night, filled with laughter, and the clinking of glasses as my family gathered around the dining table. Christmas lights twinkled on the tree, gifts piled high beneath it, the perfect illusion of a happy family. Except I wasn't supposed to be in the picture. I sat quietly on the edge of the couch, watching as my mother orchestrated everything like a director on a stage. She adjusted her hair, guided my siblings into place, and barked at my cousin to hold the camera higher. Then she turned to me, her voice dripping with disdain. "You don't deserve to be in the family photo. Step aside." There it was again, those words. Final, cruel. A sentence that cut through me like a knife. My throat burned, but I didn't argue. I picked up my glass of water, nodded silently, and stepped away. The photo was taken without me. Everyone smiling, my mother in the center, her perfect family framed around her. And for a moment, she looked satisfied, triumphant. But later that night, when the dishes were stacked, the wine bottles empty, and the chatter had dwindled, I stood up. My heart pounded in my chest as I pulled out my phone. "I have something to show you," I said, my voice steady but louder than I expected. Heads turned. The room fell quiet, curious. My mother's smile faltered. I tapped the screen, and the photo appeared. Not tonight's photo, but the other one. It was from years ago, another Christmas. My siblings were younger, the decorations cheaper, but the scene was unforgettable. My father was passed out on the couch, half a bottle of whiskey in his hand. My mother was standing in the middle of the room, her face twisted in rage, her hand raised mid-slap. And there I was, just a teenager cowering in the corner, one cheek red from where she had already struck me. I had taken the picture with trembling hands, back then, as proof. Proof no one had wanted to see. Proof everyone had pretended didn't exist. Now it glowed on the screen for all of them to see. The silence was suffocating. My sister's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered against the floor. My uncle stared, his face pale. My cousins shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other. And my mother's face drained of all color. "That's fake," she croaked, her voice cracking. You edited that." I shook my head slowly. "No, you can't twist this one. You can't erase it. You can't tell me I imagined it. This is who you really are. And now they all know." The air in the room was electric, heavy with decades of secrets and lies unraveling in an instant. No one moved, no one spoke. For the first time in my life, my mother had nothing to say. The room was silent.